Hi, yeah, it's me again. Nick Howarth, the author of War and Peace, The Truth About the East Rand Riot Squad. Now, I want to tell you a little story about something that happened to me which was actually life-changing. This was what kind of made me set my sights on getting out of the shithole that I was in, that I'd put myself in. It was 1993, when I was working in the Katlehong outside platoon. It was myself. I was the only, there was another white guy. There was two white guys on my shift, myself and Constable Stradom. Constable Stradom was still very young. He'd just come out of the police college and then sent straight to the Internal Stability Division. And I had a bunch of what we call special constables. These guys had been employed by the police to do the gardens and wash the vehicles and so on. They had like a standard 6, which is like a grade 8, school certificate. They weren't qualified policemen. They weren't qualified in firearms or anything, but we had no choice but to put these guys on the vehicles, teach them how to use a firearm, because there was only 2 of us. And we were patrolling a township of over 1 million people. Yeah. So we had these special constables with us. I remember my shift very well. The 2 guys who really impinged with me was Mshali. Mshali was a proper Zulu warrior, and Mbanjwa and Masibuku. These guys were only Mshali could speak English. The rest of them just spoke Zulu. I had about 4 of these guys, or 5 of them, that used to travel on my vehicle with me. And this particular day, I was riding a soft shell vehicle. In other words, it was not an armored vehicle. It was a normal patrol vehicle, normal soft shell patrol vehicle. And I was driving, and I had Constable Stradom next to me, and Constable on Charlie, or a special constable on Charlie in the middle. And in the back, in the canopy, we had the rest of the guys. There was about 3 of them there. And we were told we had to go to Phola Park. It was a Friday afternoon. There'd been a car hijacked on the old Vereniging Road, which was just outside Phola Park. It was a police brigadier's car had been hijacked from him, and they'd taken it into Phola Park, and we were told to go in and find this car and get it back. And I pitched up at Phola Park Friday afternoon. There's really, the trouble starts really on a Friday afternoon when the drinking starts. And I wasn't prepared to go into this place with a soft shell vehicle. That was literally, I think, that year there'd been over 300 policemen killed in South Africa, and I think probably half of them were in that particular area, Phola Park. It was well known, very dangerous. In actual fact, the National Police Training Base had a little camp that they built, which was used for training purposes, and they called it Phola Park. That's how infamous this place was. So anyway, I was like, I'm not going in there with a soft shell vehicle. We'll be sitting ducks, So luckily, a 32 Battalion Army patrol came along in one of their Buffalo vehicles, and called a Buffle. It was a nice little armored vehicle, troop carrier. So I asked if I could tag along and if they could take me into the squatter camp, and I'll leave my section just outside by the entrance of Phola Park. So I jumped on the back with the rest of the troops and their officer. These are all ex-Angolan war veterans, came from the Angolan War, all black Portuguese-speaking guys. And jumped on the back with them. These guys had just come out of the bush, like war-hardened, man. These guys were like proper soldiers. They knew how to fight. And as we got into this road that went down to the bottom of the squatter camp, there was a small war broke out where I just left my vehicle. Like we could hear the gunfire was, just going off. It was like, and we couldn't turn around. These roads were too narrow, so we had to go all the way down to the bottom of the squatter camp, go out the bottom, go out the edge of it, round the side, round a soccer field, and get onto the main road and come back. And it was going to take us, I don't know, at least 5 minutes, maybe 10, to get back to where my vehicle was. So we did that. We went round, down the bottom of the soccer fields, round the soccer fields, onto the tar road, coming back the other way. And as we were coming back along the tar road, there was 2 buses stopped in front of us, and they were just taking fire from the squatter camp, like massive amounts of fire. And the people were piling out of the windows of the other side of the bus and running into the veld. And there was just glass spraying everywhere. So these we stopped right behind this bus. flipped the side down of the biffle, and myself and all of these 3-2 Battalion soldiers jumped out, and we formed a linie, and we did what we call fiery movement, or Vierenbeweging, where you leapfrog towards the enemy. There was multiple gunmen. I would think there was probably about 6 or 7 gunmen sitting in the shacks on the other side of the soccer field. We had to now cross a soccer field, which was basically a dust soccer field. And so we started going across the soccer field, like advancing on them. And I was the only one in a camouflage uniform. The rest of the guys were in army browns, and they were all black. I was the only white guy with them. And I was right on the end of the line. So it just so happened that obviously these guys saw me. These gunmen, and they started concentrating all their fire on me. And these 3-2 Battalion soldiers, knowing this, that I'm the danger point, they had to distance themselves from me. So they started moving away from me. I started moving further away, up to the top of the soccer field, and they were moving towards the bottom of the soccer field as we were still moving forward. So eventually it got to a point where there was just bullets whizzing over my head. I was waiting for it to get hit. It was just like, okay, so this is happening now, and this is the end. And so I dropped to the ground, and I lay flat behind my rifle. I was holding my R5 assault rifle like in front of me, and that was really the only protection that I had, only cover that I had, and there was just bullets whizzing past me. It was the scariest thing. I was absolutely terrified. And then I thought to myself, there's no ways I'm going to die here. Like I kind of snapped out of this defense mode and went into attack. And I looked up, and I saw a guy on his haunches. He had a red jersey on, and he was on his haunches and was sitting on the side of a shack, and he was just like, grrr, 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 like just concentrating all his fire on me. I don't know, I couldn't see the others, but I could see him, and I thought, all right, I'm going to take this guy out. So I emptied out both of my magazines into this general area with my R5 that was like 70 rounds. And the last click, I got up and I ran, and it was just like you would think about in the movies, where there's just bullets flying and dust and pings and whizzes and everything. And I ran, and I still hadn't been hit. I couldn't believe it. I was like waiting for it to happen, and they just weren't hitting me. And I dived into a hole. It was a trench which was being dug to put water pipes in, like storm water pipes. So these trenches had been dug. And I jumped into this hole, and these guys had now moved up towards me as well. Were still within the squatter camp, and they'd moved from shack to shack, and then got closer to me. And I was in this hole, and I had 31 rounds in my. I had 31 rounds. I had 15 in my magazine, one in my chamber, and I had another spare magazine with me. And that's all I had left. And these guys were firing, and there was like sand coming off the top of this hole that I was sitting in. Like, it was like a pile of sand, and it was like, so every now and then I stick my hand over with my gun, and I'd pull 2 or 3 shots off, and I was calling on the radio. No one was answering me. I called and I called and I called, and I was in a position now where I could see now where I'd left my vehicle and my section, and they were gone. They weren't there, and they weren't answering the radio, and no one at the base was answering the radio. Friday afternoon, I don't know what they were doing. And eventually, Smiley Engelbrecht, Sergeant Smiley Engelbrecht, who was on rest days at the time, was sleeping in the barracks at Katlehong base, or Katuris base, and he heard me screaming on the radio, and he said to me, okay, what's going on? I said, this is the situation, I'm going to die here, I've got 1 magazine left in my 9mm, and I actually have 32 rounds. I'll explain the last round. And he said, okay, he's coming to fetch me. And I thought, okay, well, at least something's happening, but I don't know how long it's going to take, because I knew it's at least a 15-minute drive, maybe more, 20 minutes drive from the base. But he was a good driver. He could drive an armored vehicle, this guy. He could take it around a corner on 2 wheels. He could handbrake, turn this thing at top speed. He was a very good driver. And it wasn't. I got down to about 3 rounds left in my last magazine, and I used to keep a round in my money pocket, in my bush pants. And everybody used to, or a lot of the guys that used to like brag that, well, this is for you, when it gets to the end and you're out of ammo, and you're just like, you yourself. And you never thought you'd actually ever get to that point. And I was actually sitting there going, oh, hell. I am actually thinking about if I'm going to take this bullet and fire it at them, or if I'm going to actually, I don't want to get doused in petrol and set alight, So which is worse, And just as I was thinking this, here comes Smiley around the corner in this Casper, in this olive green Casper, and he reversed up to me, and his name was Smiley because he was constantly grinning. And the back door's open. He reversed right up to the hole, and the back door's open. He was sitting there in a pair of like exercise shorts. He had no shoes, no shirt. He just had these exercise shorts, and he was the only one in the vehicle. And he's got this big grin on his face. And I looked at him and I was like, okay. And I ran and I dived in the back. I could have kissed him, I'll tell you. And anyway, we found out later that Charlie had been shot at the little skirmish at my vehicle. And my vehicle had been, full of holes and that. But the guys had managed to fight them off. So that's just one of the little stories that are in my book. It was a day that changed my life. I started like putting my sights on getting out of there. My wife was pregnant with our second child at the time, and I really didn't want my kids growing up without a father. So I decided it's time to start working my way out of it. And by the end of the next year, by the end of '94, I just resigned. I had no job. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I just resigned and tried to start my own little thing, but it was better than what I was doing. So it's another little story that you can find in my book in more detail, and I hope you enjoy it. So you can go to Amazon, punch in my name, Nick Howarth, that's N-I-C-K, and then my surname is H-O-W-R-T-H, and the War and Peace, the truth about the Eastern Riot Squad will come up, and you can buy it on ebook. I'll have prints coming out next year, more prints. We ran out of prints. So you'll enjoy this book. Got 5 stars on Amazon, 5-star rating on Amazon. Not one bad report on this book. It's all the reviews have been rave reviews. I've only had good reviews on this book from everybody that's read it. So do yourself a favor, read the book. You'll really enjoy it. Thanks for listening.